In this week's Torah portion, we continue with Eliyahu, Rabbi Eliyahu Benamozeg. We're going to get another little taste of the uniqueness, his idiosyncratic commentary. Let's look at the word Noach. Right, we learn about Noach, the guy that saves the future of humanity and the world from this terrible flood. The first thing Benamozeg tells us is he says, we know from the sort of from the archives or memories of the Gentiles that there was a guy called Eliyahu. I'm probably not saying that right, but so we know from Greek mythology that Zeus brings a flood upon the earth, and we have this one mythological character that, much like Noach, his role is to save the world or the future generations, posterity from annihilation. And then Benamozeg says, not only that, but I've checked, and the word Eliyahu and Noach mean the same thing. So here he's in fact saying, and this connects to Benamozeg's universal idea, that different stories and different cultures indicate similar things, something to do with this true early primordial religion and things going on. So here in fact he's saying Greek mythology isn't just nonsense, but he's saying there's a common denominator between aspects of Greek mythology and the Bible in terms of preserving ancient history. And moreover, another cute example, he mentions then the sons of Noach, Shem, Cham, and Yafet. And when he mentions Cham, or Cam, he says it's interesting that in Psalms, Egypt is called the land of Cham, or the land of Cam. And the question is why? And he says if you read Plutarch, tells us, the Greek philosopher, that the reason Egypt was called the land of Cham, or Cam, is because in the language of the ancient Egyptian Cohenites, they used to call it Hemaya or Hamaya, and it's what is called in Arabic Alhamia, which is chemistry. And he says but the reason Egypt is called El Hamaya, Hamaya, or Ham in the Bible, right? So there is, again, like with the flood, there's a common denominator between, or preservation of an ancient aspect of Egypt, which is preserved both in the Bible or in Psalms by calling it Ham, and by the ancient Egyptian Cohenites, and both in fact are calling it for the same reason, because it's to tell us that Egypt was this technological powerhouse where chemistry came about. And then he says not only that, but he says, and who was, one of the wisest blokes who ever lived that came from Egypt? Moses. And he says Moses not only knew chemistry, but he also knew alchemy. And he knew to mix metals and water and turn it into gold. And so here he tries to say there is also in fact a reason why Moses had to get his upbringing where he went, because it would then help him later on with this I'm adding with the Israelites, that this divine figure or human figure with divine help needed also a great education, and what better place to learn chemistry and alchemy than in Egypt. So this is thoughts on the wild Torah portion of Noach with Rabbi Eliyahu Benamozeg, who's going to bring for us ancient philosophy and mythology and science and Kabbalah, everything together to try and understand where we come from, where we're headed, and what's going on in this book called the Torah. Shabbat Shalom.